Hello, vinyl community. This is Tommy in North Carolina, and I wanted to do a quick video to respond to the Canadian Studmuffin who released a video earlier asking a few questions concerning Beatles. I've not done a Beatles video yet, so I figured just to be nutty, why don't I just do a response to what he asked? And so that's what I'm going to do. The first question he asked was concerning the White Album. Here is my mono copy that I got, the reissue from a few years ago, just as an illustration. And his first question was concerning the song Revolution 9, and should it not be on the White Album. The White Album is a confusing Beatles record in a lot of ways. I love it because it's just a mess. It's a huge mess. And there's a lot of debate on whether or not it should have been a single album. I know Paul McCartney famously said, "Hey, it's the Beatles' White Album, never mind." There was a lot of ego, and I feel like they were really constrained by the rules. When I think about a track like Not Guilty, and I'll use Not Guilty as sort of my example, that track was a worthy track, and it especially was worthy in light of the material that ended up on there. When I think about stuff like Wild Honey Pie and Why Don't We Do It in the Road, and there's tracks on the White Album that really reek of self-indulgence. Maybe you've got the ego of Lennon and McCartney, and two Harrison songs per LP, one Ringo. They followed on the White Album, disc 1, 2 Harrisons, one Ringo, and the same thing with disc 2. And when you think about the space that something like Revolution 9 takes up, you really do question the legitimacy of including a track like that. I like Revolution 9 for what it is. It's not a song. It's a recording. It's an experiment. It's interesting. It's worth listening to. And when I play the LP, I usually let it play on through, because that's just part of having the White Album experience. And so the White Album is what it is. I like it. It's, in a lot of ways, it's one of my very favorite Beatle albums, because it is such a all over the place kind of record. But I don't know what I would change about it. So that comes back to the thing: if you're going to demand a change, offer a solution. I don't know that I could whittle it down to a single LP, so I don't know that argument would work, because I like most of the material, even the throwaway stuff. So it's hard to say. I mean, history has judged it for what it is, and so should it be included or not on the White Album? Who knows? I don't have a yes or no to that. But that's my thoughts about it. Just a general sweeping overview of the White Album. The other question that he asked was the percentage of the Paul is dead rumors. I was really in college. It was sort of early days of the internet. I was sort of swept up by the whole Paul is dead thing. I was too young to remember or to know about it at a time. I mean, the Beatles had broken up 5 years before I was born. So that whole Paul is dead thing was something in retrospect that I learned about. I'm of the theory with anything like that, when you propose a conspiracy or something of that nature, there has to be several people involved. And I just have a hard time believing that many people would keep it a secret. I think somebody somewhere is going to talk. You don't have something like that happen and a cover up of that magnitude and get away with it. So the percentage of it, 0%. It's interesting. There's a lot of fun stuff. I mean, I look at the cover of Abbey Road in much a different way after I read up on all that. But overall, I don't think there's any percentage that and any of it could be true. I think it's just people with a lot of time on their hands conjuring things up. So 0%. Another question that he asked was about the remixes by Giles Martin, and would we like to see it, so on and so forth. I've had this conversation with some friends of mine about recording and how his argument has always been that musicians, when they record music, even going back to the days of very early recordings and very crude recordings, that they would naturally want the best possible representation of that. I bought on Record Store Day, I bought the remixed single of Strawberry Fields Forever and Penny Lane, and I enjoy it. I don't think it replaces the original. And so as far as remixes go, I don't have a problem with it. It's sort of a new way of looking at a painting, as it were. But I don't think that they should replace the originals for people, whether it be stereo or mono. I think that those mixes should still be available for people to listen to and enjoy. I'm not just totally opposed to remixes, but I think you got to put them in their place historically. And I mean, a remix is a remix, and it's not going to ever replace the original. But you can enjoy it for what it is, but you have to, take it at face value. And finally, the last question, what 10 songs would I choose to impress Beatles or somebody that's not heard the Beatles, or only kind of outside people, to pick 10 songs? And I sort of did this. I just wrote down 10 titles that just first popped into my mind. There's probably better songs. There's better examples. Canadian Studmuffin did his 10, and they were all really good. And there's a few that are on my list that are on his. And so I didn't differ too much. These are just the 10 songs that popped into my head. I can't even go in chronological order because I just wrote them down. The first one that popped in was She Loves You. That song just has an exhilarating feel to it. The way the guitars echo the chorus, the yeah, yeah, yeahs. It just comes out like a cannonball, and it just goes. And so it's an impressive track. It really, to me, kind of embodies a lot of what early Beatlemania was about, and that excitement. It's just it's an exciting track. And to me, it's kind of like that they captured the feel of what early Beatlemania probably sounded like and felt like, especially to someone that wasn't there to experience it. The next song I wrote down was A Day in the Life, and that is kind of an obvious choice, I think. Not only does it kind of encompass the Sgt. Pepper album as far as being a landmark recording for popular music, but it is an incredible song, lyrically, melodically. The orchestral bridges are really interesting, and so it's just it's a big deal in terms of just in the Beatles catalog. It's a watershed moment. The next one I wrote down was Revolution. I guess you could call it Revolution 5. I don't remember the number, but the single version, the heavy guitar version of Revolution. I remember when I was a young kid and my father had the Hey Jude album, and it was an American release that had a lot of weird songs just as a collection. But Revolution was on there, and I remember just being completely floored by the guitar tone, that overdrive, distortion. It was amazing to me. And so that song, and I've revisited it recently and kind of cranked it up in the headphones and blown the old eardrums out. But it's got a nasty bite to it, but and lyrically it's got the political leanings there. But just the guitar tone alone is just enough for me. The next one I wrote down was In My Life. I have a weird relationship with that song. I think the first verse of that song is one of the most impressive lyrics in the whole Beatles catalog. It's absolutely gorgeous, and the melody is perfect. I think the song does peter out in the second verse, in the sense that it just kind of becomes a love song. It's like he makes this really bold statement with the first verse, and then you get to the chorus, and then the next line is, "Hey, I love you a lot." And to me, it's not bad. It doesn't ever lose any of that, but it really is a neat song. The little Baroque piano breakdown solo, it's a great recording. The next one, it kind of falls maybe a little bit in that line, is Eleanor Rigby. It's a powerful track. It's emotional. It's got the string arrangement, which is gorgeous. and it's the melody. It's a great lyric, a great song. The next one I wrote down kind of ties back into "She Loves You," early Beatlemania. "I Want to Hold Your Hand." I can imagine what it probably felt like to be a teenager in the United States, in particular, when that song blasted on radio speakers. I'm sure it was just it was like a force of nature, and it overtakes you. But just the guitar licks in that song, and you know, it's simple, but it's got a, again, I go back to that word exhilarating, the same thing that I sort of said about "She Loves You." It just has this drive to it that is incredible. The next one I wrote down was "Here Comes the Sun." Here Comes the Sun by George Harrison. I kind of felt like George had to be represented, and "Here Comes the Sun" is just a pretty song. The guitars are beautiful. It's got a wonderful melody. It's a great Beatles track. The next one I wrote down was "Strawberry Fields Forever." Another landmark recording, ties into the Pepper thing. I remember when I was first really absorbing the Beatles, the first one I listened to was the Blue Album, 1967 through 70, and "Strawberry Fields" opens that collection. And everything that I thought I knew about the Beatles, that song kind of really pushed me in another direction. And as a recording, it's incredible, and it's got, you know, the different sounds and the way the guitar comes through. It's a song that kind of washes over you, and so I feel like it's a good introduction song. Another one I picked was probably an oddball. Maybe it's a little bit cheating, but it's the second side of Abbey Road, "You Never Give Me Your Money." There's something about the way that song begins with Paul on the piano, and when it kicks into the "Out of College, Money Spent," that part of the song just always seems to just it does something to me internally. I don't know what it is, but when that song just breaks into that and drives on, it's a really, really incredible recording. And so that's why I wrote that down, because you know, Abbey Road, and I may do another video where I discuss my relationship with Abbey Road. I'll go ahead and warn you, I don't love Abbey Road as much as everyone in the world seems to. And don't get me wrong, I don't hate Abbey Road. I think it's a fantastic album. But in terms of Beatles albums, Abbey Road's not in my top 3 or 4 even. It's an incredible record, and I understand the love affair with it. But there's just some material on there that I'm not quite as enthusiastic about as a lot of Beatles fans. And that may be another video that I do, you know, Beatles material that everyone loves but me. I don't know what we'll call it. And then finally, the last one I wrote down, just because I think I love the guitar sound and the melody. Again, when you talk about the Beatles, you always go to the word melody, because that's what makes them so appealing to so many people. But the last one I wrote was "Nowhere Man." I love the guitar solo in that song. Again, the melodies and the harmonies in that, lyrically, it's a cool song. And so those are my 10 songs to impress non-Beatles people. I think, you know, if you put those songs on a collection, if you have any affinity toward music whatsoever, then that would certainly draw you in. So anyway, thanks for watching. Like, comment, any questions or anything, disagreements, whatever you want to say, go ahead and do it below. Instagram and Twitter, TommyBurton75. Go ahead and follow and look that up. And like I said, I'll probably do another video later in the week. I've got a couple of ideas, but I just wanted to get this response in. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.